Howdy folks, this is Warren of M&W Fishing. I'm sure there are times when you guys aren't fishing, you're just sitting at home, bored, scrolling and scrolling and scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that fun jazz, but you guys are looking for new fishing gear, new baits, new lures, new everything, but I'm sure you guys are probably seeing a lot more of the glide baits and the bigger swim baits. At first, I was really intimidated to throw them myself. It took me some time to get used to them, to sort of figure them out and sort of dial them in. But once you take the time to actually learn them, dedicate some time to them, you will be sure to link up with some of the biggest bass in your lakes, and who knows, you might even catch a new PB. So I haven't been throwing the bigger baits for a super duper long time, but for the finite amount of time I have been using them, it has showed me just how curious but aggressive the bass are in my hometown lakes. A lot of times people use these bigger baits to sort of call out these big fish, to sort of see what type of caliber their fish are in the area that you're fishing. So this is a very good thing to use when you don't know what you're looking for exactly. Just throw one of these bigger baits out, and if you manage to have a follower or two, you're going to be able to see what size of fish you're actually working with in that area, and that'll tell you if you need to anchor down, or you need to put down the trolling motor or keep on moving. I'm going to sort of explain to you what type of equipment you need to use to sort of throw these type of baits, because you do need a little bit of heavier duty equipment. Nothing crazy, but once you do get hooked into a fish, you want to be able to have a little bit more control of it. You don't want anything super duper flimsy, but also nothing super duper broomsticky, because first off, a lot of times these swim baits have treble hooks, and you don't want to be jacking them so hard that you rip the trebles out of their faces. So there's got to be a little bit of give and take with your combo. But I will go ahead and start explaining that now. There are a lot of opinions flying around out there about what's the best equipment to use for this. What rod, what reel, what line, what hooks, what everything. So basically, what I'm going to tell you is for any swim bait south, like smaller than 1.5 ounces, you can get away with a 7-foot to 7'6" heavy rod. That is what I have right now, because the only swim baits that I have right now are they're actually both 1.25 ounces. I only have this glide bait and the mag draft, but I found out that my St. Croix Mojo bass rod, the 7'4" heavy, is a very, very good combo or rod for these swim baits, because it's rated up to 1.5 ounces. And the nice thing about this rod is it does have a fast tip with it, because it's technically a frogging rod and a swim jig rod, so it does have a bit of a faster tip with it, so it allows me to feel the bite, but also to pin the treble hooks when I'm setting the hook really well. It's got a little bit of give, so when you're working that fish, you're not pulling the hooks out of it, and also you get a nice subtle swing with it, and basically you can bury the hooks in it to the fish pretty well with a little bit of give. Now, whenever you start getting to the swim baits that are north of 1.5 ounces, so bigger than, closer to 2, 3, 4, I've even seen some swim baits get up into 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ounces. It's pretty crazy culture out there with these swim baits, but if you do get north of the 2-ounce mark, I would suggest going to an extra heavy, about 7'6" or longer, maybe like a 7'8", 7'9" if you can, because the longer your rod is, the more power you're going to have with it, and the more control over that fish you're going to have. I don't know if any of you guys are muskie fishermen, pike fishermen. If you have a dedicated muskie or pike combo, that would be a great combo to be slinging these big swim baits on as well, because most of the time when you're pike fishing or muskie fishing, when they decide to hit that lure, they are hitting it hard and fast, and you need to be able to control that fish as well as you can, get it in, and just be able to take care of that fish as fast as possible, because those type of fish, they wear themselves out so hard and so fast that they can basically kill themselves. So with those types of setups, you need to be able to have full control of those types of fish. And with that type of combo for bass fishing, you'll have no problem slinging these bigger baits around. Now, to go on to the reel that I like to use, I personally have the Shimano Curado DC. It is the 6:2:1 gear ratio, so it is the slower gear ratio, but in my opinion, when you're working these swim baits and the glide baits, you want that slower gear ratio, because I know for a fact with me, most of the time I'm getting distracted when I'm out fishing. I'm either talking to my bud, or I'm just like looking around, just paying attention to my surroundings usually, so I just start to get reeling. But with the slower gear ratio, you don't have to practice that much self-control when you're reeling. Obviously, you want to keep it a nice steady pace, but you don't need to be going anything crazy or super duper slow when you have that slower gear ratio. Whenever the topic of soft-bodied swim baits is in the air, you can never forget to mention the Mag Draft. It is the OG of soft-body swim baits. It has been around since about 2016. It has found its ways into the hearts of thousands and thousands of anglers nationwide, and it is for good reason. It is one of the better soft-body swim baits you can get on the market. They're making new ones every single day, but people still tend to gravitate towards the Mag Draft. They do make a couple different variations of the Mag Draft. They have this is the original, so you're going to have that treble hook right here. They do have the freestyle version. I'm not the biggest fan of that one myself. It's good when you're fishing like super duper heavy cover, because that actually has a Texas rigged hook that runs through the back of the bait, so you can skip that up underneath docks, underneath tree lines. The most covered areas, you want the freestyle version. But with the original, you're going to have, it has an internal jig head, comes down to an eyelet on the bottom, has a swivel attached to a split ring, and then you got your treble hook. There's multiple ways to rig this treble hook. I will show you the basic ways to do it, that you can do it out of the box. The thing is very customizable, but I'll just show you the basics. So out of the box, it is going to be just straight up one treble hook down, and it has these cutouts on the belly of the bait to where you can actually place your treble in there. And another cool feature about the Mag Draft is it actually has a magnet that runs along the belly, sort of helps to keep that hook in place as well. But the magnet's not super duper strong. After a couple catches, or if you catch a couple fish on it, you're going to notice your hook's going to be swinging and not attached to that magnet. So another way to keep this hook a little bit more secure, there is a little chamber dug out in the belly of the bait. You take one of the treble hooks or one of the barbs, push it into that tunnel. Now you can see that hook is inside that tunnel. It's not buried in or anything, so you could pull it out easy. It's still held in there with the magnet. If you really want to, all you have to do is push on the base of the treble, push it up into the bait. Now that the hook that's in the body of the bait is buried in the plastic, so it's not really going anywhere. So that's probably one of the safer ways to do it. Another thing you can do, if you wanted to add another treble hook, from that eyelet on the bottom of the bait, you can tie like a little leader. I would probably use like, I don't know, probably like 50-pound braid, tie a little leader here, and then tie I usually go with a smaller treble hook, just because there's not much meat back here. Just to bury the smaller treble hook in the bottom right next to this fin right here, and then you'll have two hooks. Should really help with hookup ratio. Basically, it just helps you make sure when you have short strikes or anything like that, that helps you get a hook into that fish as well. There are even people that sometimes put a third hook on the head of the bait. They just attach it to a split ring onto this eyelet, and then the hook just basically bury it into the back of the bait. I'm not gonna do that all that often, I imagine. That's just asking to get hung up, in my opinion, but you gotta figure out what works for you. You just gotta test those limits and see what you can do with it, basically. Another cool thing about this bait is it works great in every single water column. You can work it really fast up top, like a top water bite. You can let it sink down a little bit, get your middle water column action, or if you want to work it really low and slow, you can do that too. Just count rocks with it. Just let it look like a foraging bait fish on the bottom. It's the really nice thing about that with this bait. You can work basically every single water column, and then you can sort of find out where those fish are, and if you need to basically try and find a different bait, this is a great searching bait because you're going to be calling out those fish from a far distance, and when they see stuff this big, it's usually, they're not really scared of it all that much because they think, oh, it's alive, it's something I can eat. So that's another thing with these big baits, is it's just sort of a surprise factor for the fish. They're so surprised, oh, that's a big fish, I don't think a fisherman would be using that, so I might as well try and take the opportunity and get a big meal. So you just gotta find the hungry fish, and it's usually a pretty big fish, but you'll find them with these bigger baits for sure. Alrighty, so with the mag draft, it's a very, very fun bait to work. Once you put the time into it to learn it, understand it, you'll definitely be landing some of the bigger fish in your lakes. Now, I will go ahead and cut off to a little video of me working the bait.
All right, folks, so right now what I got thrown on now is the 6-inch brownie mag draft. Right now I just have it rigged with the single treble hook. It's not super duper, I mean, it's got a lot of algae in here, so I'm gonna stick with just the one right now. Tie it on with a Palomar knot, 25-pound fluorocarbon, 7'4" heavy St. Croix Mojo bass rod, paired with the 6:2:1 gear ratio Shimano Curado DC. All right, so now with this mag draft, let it sink a little bit, and then you're gonna start slowly retrieving it. Slowly reel it in, because with this bait, it does have a tendency to roll over on its side if you reel it too fast. So I'm just gonna give it a nice steady retrieve. Give it pops every once in a while. You can kill it every once in a while, but every so often just give it a nice little twitch to give it that sort of erratic behavior. But that's how you do that. Now let's see if we can link up with one.
The next category of swim bait I'm going to be talking about is the glide bait. This is a fairly small glide bait. This is the only one I have, but this is just the reference I'm going to use to talk about today. The majority of glide baits are all 2 pieces. Now, once you get into the 3-piece and 4-piece swim baits, those are more just like a hard-bodied swim bait. I wouldn't consider those glide baits anymore because they're not gonna have that gliding swim pattern. The way glide baits are made, they're really designed for a slow and steady retrieve, because when you work it slow, you are going to get the full action of the bait. It has a S swimming pattern, so the way I work it is I work it with the reel. Basically, I don't like to twitch my rod all that much, just because I sort of lose where my bait is in the water. So when I'm working it with the reel, I can control it a little bit better. Most of the time I'm doing quick little half turns, maybe quarter turns, that basically just enough to get that line pulled in enough to make that bait twitch, and then that's gonna send it swimming to the other side. So it's gonna do one, and then when you reel a little bit, it's gonna send it out this way. The cool thing with some glide baits is when you are actually leaving it sit after you reel in some line, it has enough inertia and momentum when you do your initial turn, it's going to turn this way. And then when you leave it pause, sometimes it has enough momentum to actually swing back on its own. So if you leave it sit a little bit longer, it will sort of continue its swimming pattern. Another cool thing sometimes, if you can actually see the bait when you're standing up higher above the water, you can control where the bait is going to stop at on that swing back. So you can, if you have a follower, you can stop it with it when it's looking directly at the fish, and that can entice a bite really, really good. So that if you're into sight fishing, that's a cool feature with glide baits. Another fun thing to do with glide baits, if you have a well-balanced glide bait, you can also work it fast. All you have to do is speed up your half turns or your quarter turns, and that will get it to do a faster swimming pattern, and that can really fire up a bite as well. Just the other day, first time using this, I started off working it slow because I thought that's what the fish was gonna want. The temperature was like maybe 35 degrees, water temps maybe low 40s. So I was imagining them wanting it slow. Didn't have any luck with that. So I ended up just saying, screw it, I'm okay with not catching fish, I just want to get this cadence down. So I ended up speeding up my retrieve, and that's when I noticed I ended up start getting more bites, actually landing some more fish. So whenever you're working a bait, any type of bait really, you have to sort of play around with your cadence, because you never know what the fish are going to react to. You just have to sort of try it out, guess, and see what actually works for that day. Because one condition, like say you went fishing yesterday, you caught the hell out of them. You go back to the same spot tomorrow, you don't know if that cadence is gonna work again. So you just have to start fresh every day, read the weather, read the conditions, and then once you can get better about reading conditions, then you'll be able to start figuring out the cadences and the patterns quicker when you're out in the water. So with the glide bait, basically you just have to sort of either slow it down really, really slow, or speed it up however you like. You just got to go out there and try it. So I'm gonna go ahead and send you off to a video of me working this bait and actually landing a fish. All right, see you later.
There is a lot of muckiness on the bottom here, so I'm trying to keep my rod tip higher up because this bait does have a slow sink with it with the weight of the fluorocarbon. So I'm just trying to keep it a little bit elevated off the bottom so I don't be catching all that nasty algae stuff, but we'll see. With these treble hooks, you're going to be dealing with this a lot, so just got to learn how to accept it and move on from it, because if you're not putting your bait where there's nasty stuff, you're not going to catch fish, unfortunately. That's just how the cookie crumbles. We're on. We're on. I don't know how big it is, but not bad size. Heck yeah. Know what you do. Just gotta let, not too much drag. You don't want too tight because these are treble hooks. But he's a pretty one. Oh, don't you dare throw that. It's got a lot of weight to it, so you gotta just work it real slow. Keep him low so he don't jump. All right, bring him in. Slide him up. Bada bing, folks. Heck yes. Conditions weren't all that perfect for the glide bait, but we are making it work. Heck yes. Boy, that is deep in that lip. Holy crap. Come on. Come on. These hooks are sharp as hell. Come on. There we go. Bada bing, folks. Look at that chunk. Holy crap. Probably about 3.5, pushing 4, I would say. But that's how you work it on the glide bait. Just pop it with your quarter turns every so often, kill it, let it die, let it sink. But sooner or later, you are gonna link up with a nicer sized bass. Oh my goodness.